Rise up!
This is the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. I'm your host, Jess Root from CardsWire.com, USA Today's NFL Wire site, covering, of course, the Arizona Cardinals. And joining me on the show, as he typically does, is Seth Cox from RevengeOfTheBirds.com, SB Nation's Arizona Cardinals site, as we're at episode 752. We get to talk about the Super Bowl. We get to talk about Super Bowl odds for next year. And we get to talk a little bit more about the quarterback situation. We will get to the roster as we now have the Cardinals head coach. You still don't have a defensive coordinator. They interviewed Aubrey Pleasant. Dino Vasso backed out. We don't know about Charlie Bullen. So we're just waiting on whatever happens. And it kind of feels like, don't you think maybe that the silence means maybe Nick Rawlis might be the guy again?
I mean, that's definitely a possibility. And that's what's interesting about this whole situation, right? I mean, they've done nothing to really assuage anything that comes to believing in what they're doing. I mean, everybody was really on board with Mike LaFleur after the Robert Saleh, kind of leverage play. I think everybody was like, hey, Michael LaFleur. And then they had that weird meeting with Clint Kubiak where it was just apparent that it was going to lead to nothing. I mean, anybody with a brain was like, this isn't going to do anything, right? So, and so then we were like, okay, it still was positively reviewed in every situation. And then immediately they hired Nathaniel Hackett. And now it's coming out that like there were some, handshake deals with Matt LaFleur, telling Mike, hey, hire our buddy, bring him in, get him back in the good graces of things because he's had a tough go of it once he was out on his own, and we can get his name positively back out there. And so you're like, okay, that's kind of odd. And then you see the names that come in with regards to the defensive coordinator position. And you look at Wink Martindale and you go, whatever. It wouldn't be a bad hire by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a guy that's long in the tooth and might be a short timer, a la Wade Phillips when he went to LA, right, with Sean McVay. And then you get some different names, and you get Dino Vasso, and you go, that'd be interesting. Aubrey Pleasant, you're like, okay. Charlie Bullen, you're like, yeah, it's he's been in the program for the Cardinals and things like that, but not the worst name in the world. And then Dino backs out and you go, okay, what's going on now? Like, again, you had Anthony Campanelli back out and we had the same question, like, what's going on? Is this a, hey, go ahead and back out so it looks good for you? Or is this I'm not waiting around anymore. Like I'm going to sign.
And the fact that they interviewed Pleasant on Monday, we figured we might have heard something today, right?
Well, and it was reported today that the Los Angeles Rams are hiring a defensive backs coach, which is the position that Aubrey Pleasant coached for the Rams. So that makes you think, oh, okay, this is a done deal. However, one of the things that we should absolutely acknowledge is that there's competition for Aubrey Pleasant, and that competition is the Cleveland Browns. And I wrote about this yesterday when the report came out. And I'd love to get your opinion, Jess. If you are a young defense coordinator, I think I saw Pleasant's age somewhere between 38 and 41. I can't remember where I saw it. It's not on his Wikipedia page. So, but I've seen 38 and I think I saw 41. So he's young still, right? He's in his late 30s, early 40s. If you have the option of coaching the Arizona Cardinals defense or the Cleveland Browns defense, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer unless you're really, really, really worried that they're not going to retain Myles Garrett, right?
Yeah, I don't know which way I would rather go in that case, honestly.
I mean, with Myles Garrett, you go, hey, I'm going to the Browns.
It's true.
Like, I know I have the best defensive player in the NFL. Without Myles Garrett, you go, well, the Cardinals have a higher pick, and they have a lot of pieces of clay that hopefully my staff can help mold. Whereas, you look at the Browns, they have the best defense player in the NFL. They have an elite level linebacker in Carson Schlesinger, who's the reigning defensive rookie of the year. And so you go, okay, I've got two elite playmakers. I need to fill in 9 others. With the Cardinals, I mean, we like Josh. They don't even have, I guess Buda Baker was technically a Pro Bowler, but they don't have it like a young cornerstone piece, right? Like they don't have any, like they have
maybe
pieces. So
Walter Nolan.
Right. You look at Walter Nolan, you're like, okay, I like what I saw out of him. Can we keep him on the field? You look at Will Johnson and you go, hey, I think I can work with that if we can keep him on the field. Like they're just, I don't know. It's a difficult sell, but we were kind of looking at it when this all kind of dropped last week of, well, this is a no-brainer, right? He's got a relationship with Mike LaFleur. They've coached together for years.
Gives him a chance to get that promotion up to that next position.
And so, the Browns being involved just threw a wrench in the whole thing. But the wrench to me is more that this is a decision that he has to make. And it's just a little concerning that the Rams are moving forward with a new DB coach, but also the Cardinals or the Browns, for that matter, haven't really said what's happening, right?
Well, yeah, and the fact that there's been nothing heard about Nick Rawless at all, period, about anything. Like he's not leaving. He's just like, could this be back in, what was it, Wisenhunt's, when they kept Pendergast for a year and before they moved on to Billy Davis?
I mean, it absolutely can be. And that's, again, what the problem continues to be, is that you
hire a coach, but don't let him bring in his guys.
Right. You have to be, and people will say, well, obviously Hackett is a LaFleur guy, but I mean, you and I are okay with Nathaniel Hackett, but there was literally not a national reporter that's like, and I know they don't matter. I'm not saying that, but there wasn't a national reporter that was like, hey, this is a great hire for the Cardinals. Everybody's like, what in the hell are they doing? Like, that was literally the response. And so when you look at it from that perspective, you ask yourself, like, what is happening? Why is this not running smoothly? Why are things not getting done in time? Like they haven't even announced Nathaniel Hackett yet. And we haven't heard anything about Mike, the special teams coordinator. I mean, that's all reported stuff, but nothing's confirmed by the team. So I don't know if they're just kind of waiting to announce the entire staff as one once they get. in.
That's really typically when they do that. They'll make an announcement with the entire coaching staff.
So I'm just
That'll come sometime this month. It always happens in February.
Yeah.
But what we want to start talking about is the Super Bowl. The Seattle Seahawks come away with the 29-13 win over the New England Patriots. It went more or less kind of like the way we expected it to go, didn't it?
Yeah, man, it was a terrible game. And it was a terrible game because we were polite in how we talked about it. But the reality was the Patriots did not belong there. I mean, they were outmatched from the beginning. And we kind of joked about it 2 weeks ago before the Rams Seahawks game, right? Like that was the Super Bowl. And it ended up being so. This was just a miserable.
There was a lot of really just bad play. The quarterback play overall was terrible. Would you not agree? Like Darnold had flashes, but like
there were so many missed throws in that game.
And specifically Drake May. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Patriots offensive line was terrible, but Drake May missed maybe 10 to 12 throws that have to be made in any game, let alone a Super Bowl game. And here's the thing. Mike McDonald played the game that he wanted to play. Watching the Seahawks play against a team that they don't have any fear of offensively is actually like watching an anaconda kill its prey. Like it's not something that happens instantaneous, right? Like they just kind of vice grip you and squeeze the life out of you over, in this case, a 4-hour time period.
Absolutely.
And then they go in for the kill. And that was the Nwasu, pick six. And where you're just like, what just happened? Like, was that a fumble? Was that an no matter what, it was a touchdown. And it was one of those situations where you look at it and you just there was never any inkling of a concern from the Seahawks point of view. Like
what was great is you can see how coaches early in games, like in their field goal range, they'll get greedy and want to go for it. McDonald was 100% all right with just field goals. He's like, I'll just kick a field goal. I'll just kick a field goal. 4 field goals later, 4 field goals later, and 12-0. And, they're just moving the ball a little bit. They're just getting scoring points. And at the point where it got to be where there were 4 first downs by the Patriots with 8 punts in the game, like, dang, man.
Well, and what you have to realize is, like, going back to, I think it was the second field goal. It might have been the third, but I think it was the second field goal. You had an instance where it was 3rd and 12, and the Seahawks ran a toss. And I think they even lost yardage. Like, I don't even think they gained any yardage. And they settled for, I think, a 41-yard field goal. And I was watching with one of my buddies who I coach with, and he's a defensive guy, and he just looks at it and he goes, "Oh, they have no concern about the Patriots offense, none whatsoever." Like, they genuinely were like, "Okay, if Drake May beats us, we're going to lose." Like they were like, "You're not going to run the ball. You're not going to do anything. You're literally just, we're going to bleed you out and bleed you dry, and nothing positive is going to happen for you in this game, and that happened in this game. And you look at that first interception from May, and you're just like, that's a play of a bad rookie or a third stringer off the street that's coming in to fill in because your top two, like, that throw was just so bad. And then you just see the way that the Seahawks almost played with their food the whole time, and they just enjoyed letting the Patriots think, like, okay, just this drive. Like, I was shocked by some of the stats that came out of this game, Jess. Like, the Patriots didn't even have 50 yards of offense in the first half. That's astounding. And astoundingly bad, obviously. And you go back and you think about this, and I get it, like, it was early in the season and everything, but you go back and you think about this. The Cardinals lost on a Thursday night 23-20. They were tied in that game at 20-20, and then their kicker ended up, crapping the bed. They had the Cardinals had 253 total yards of offense. They had the 2 turnovers, the one that was, basically dropped into the hands of a Seahawks defender. And they were outpossessed by 5 minutes in that game. And they had a chance. And you look at the Patriots, who were, quote unquote, the best team in the AFC, right? The difference that a schedule and a division and just a couple of plays here and there make are literally just baffling, because it just shows you how small the margins are in games. Because the Cardinals, and we can say this without a doubt, the Cardinals are not a better team than the New England Patriots. But in week 4, the week 4 Arizona Cardinals might have been a better team than the New England Patriots. And that's what's hard to kind of like process out of all of this, is that this was just like, that was just such a poorly played game by the Patriots. Are the Seahawks great? I don't think anybody would think that, right? But I think that they were clearly the best team this season. And
And in fairness, the Patriots did play well defensively. Christian Gonzalez had a monster game, and this game would have been far uglier if Sam Darnold had played well, because that
was the one thing my buddy, who's actually a Niners fan, kept talking about. He was like, man, Darnold looks like he's reverting back. And I brought you up, and I was like, dude, my buddy always says it's not a matter of if, but when.
When's the pumpkin game?
Yeah, and it was, the interesting thing is, you mentioned Christian Gonzalez, and again, you're right. He had a remarkable game.
The breakup at the goal line, Darnold put that in a terrible place. That should have been a touchdown. He throws that more to the middle, and that's a touchdown. And they're leading by 26 at halftime.
But also the difference is, if Christian Gonzalez intercepts that, they're only down by 6, right? At half.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's the interesting thing about the game. Christian Gonzalez had a great game, but if he had, an otherworldly game, there's a legitimate chance that that the Patriots have a better shot. And so those are the things that really just come to matter. Are those plays when you just miss, right? Like you just miss a play like that, and you end up costing your team. Like, yeah, you didn't give up a touchdown. In fact, you did more than not give up a touchdown. You saved a touchdown, but at the same time, you didn't make that big play. And that big play would have really, potentially changed the outcome of the game. And it's just little things like that that makes you think, hey, this is the difference between a Super Bowl team, Uchenna Nwosu catching a ball like that. Like that wasn't a play that most defensive linemen make, right? Like that was a special level play. And so for it to go that direction, that's the difference in games. And that's not to take anything away from, again, an excellent job by the Patriots defense for a while, not the whole game, but for most of the game. But that dam did break. They obviously had to sell out to stop the run. They didn't cause any turnovers. They only got to Darnold once. That I will say that was what Darnold did well in that game, right? Like he was able to avoid sacks, and that made a huge difference. And I did think the one negative thing coming out of this game for the Patriots was their tackling. Their tackling was atrocious. And that's not to take anything away from Darnold or obviously Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker. But man, there were a lot of opportunities for the Patriots to make plays that they've made all year, and they just didn't make this week. And that goes back to, like, I don't think the Patriots were that good. I think they were very lucky on their path to where they were able to get to, or to get to where they were at, right?
I'm taking nothing away, but the Seahawks were a buzzsaw at that point. The way they were playing down the stretch, the way they closed the regular season out against San Francisco, the division they played in, they came from behind in the division to win it. They had to beat the Niners and the Rams in the playoffs. So they were used to playing quality teams and not letting, and frankly, the Patriots just did not. They were unprepared for the caliber of team that they were about to face. And that doesn't take anything away from their season, because you can only play the games that are on your schedule.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Like, and that's why
they faced a decimated Chargers team. They faced the worst version of CJ Stroud, and they faced Jarrett Stidham. And so, I mean, their defense was great. New England's defense, not only, like, they were fantastic. They weren't on the same level as Seattle, and Seattle really were. The Seahawks were feeling themselves by the time the Super Bowl. They were playing with the same sort of swagger as that Legion of Boom team.
Well, and you just saw, you literally just saw a team that was, like you said, playing at the highest level, but like the confidence that was instilled in them by their head coach played out on the field, right? Like, again, the slow play of the game, the like never really being worried or concerned about what was happening. That's all because of Mike Macdonald, because Mike Macdonald was like, oh, we're good. Like, oh, you want you want to go, or you want us to go for it? No, we're not. Like, we'll just punt and like get the ball back. Like, oh, you want us to do X, Y? Like they played the game like ultra conservatively, like a defensive coach would. And it what's so interesting to me, Jess, is like what was on display was 1000% what we saw, what we know that the Cardinals wanted in the Jonathan Gannon era. And it just never ever came to fruition. And you do. Let me ask you this: was that on Gannon and his staff, or was that on how they developed and distributed the talent on the team?
I we might find that out this year, but I'm gonna lean like, I don't know. I think it probably was coaching philosophy. Had they been more aggressive early on in the season when they had a lead, they probably the trajectory of the season goes differently, I think, because they broke after the Titans game. They literally just broke after that.
Yeah.
And we saw those first 5 games is that they'd play well, they'd get a lead, and then they'd pussyfoot around, defensively and offensively, and didn't do anything. And that, do you think that was the pressure of winning games for Gannon? Like, that he was more worried about not losing than he was about winning, especially how the season ended in 2024.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I also think that there were some things that occurred, right? Like you have this reality of a guy that really didn't understand how to win. And I think that's what the danger of tanking, especially early in somebody's career, is. You look at it and you go, oh, okay, it's okay if we lose these games. Like, it's okay if we lose close games consistently, because next year when we're trying, we'll just win them. And then what ends up happening, right? Well,
don't know how to.
Right,
they
you don't
play
know
badly in high leverage situations.
And that ends up making things more and more difficult. And so those are the little things that I look at that I'm just like, that I just, I see a team that could have and probably should have been slightly better. Like I said, you go back, man. They, like, the fact that they were so close against the Niners, against the Seahawks early in the season, and then they made that switch, and everybody, immediately everybody's like, "Oh, it's the defense fault." And I was like, "Okay, well, did you guys not watch the games? Because it was the defense's fault." No? Okay. Jess and I were the only ones watching those games. Okay. That makes sense. And so, like, you saw that, and then you go, oh, now the defense just quit, and now the offense has come back down to earth, which everybody should have expected, right? Like, anybody with a working knowledge of how the NFL works is once they get an idea of your once they get an idea of like how your quarterback works, it's like, oh, this is easy. And that's actually, something that was so interesting to me about Sam Darnold is like, you look at that game, he did not play well. I mean, again, just is he a Super Bowl winning quarterback? Absolutely. Did he play well in the game? No, he didn't. He did, and he did enough to protect the ball, make sure that he didn't have any turnovers. But I mean, he had a 50% completion percentage, right? Like this is a guy that, and he threw, I would say, at least three balls that should have been intercepted, and it didn't matter because he just kept going out there. He didn't panic. He kept a cool head, and he allowed his team to give him a chance to make plays. Whereas Drake May looked like every play, if he didn't score a touchdown, that the Patriots had no chance. And maybe that was accurate. Maybe that's why he felt that way. But the reality was, this was a game that showed you don't necessarily need Patrick Mahomes at his highest level, right? Like you don't need the greatest player ever to win a Super Bowl. You just need a team that knows how to finish games and knows how to win games. And to your point, maybe Mike LaFleur, if he's not actively trying to tank in year one, will have that and be able to get something like that done.
Yeah. Yeah, but congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks. Sadly, we have to deal with
Right.
Seahawks fans now for another year. But coming up next on the Rise of Zero podcast, Mr. Cardinals Talk a little. Let's move on and talk about the Super Bowl odds for next year, which are both good for the Seahawks and terrible for the Cardinals. That's coming up next on Rise of C-Red. We're back on the Rise of C-Red podcast, Mr. Cardinals Talk on the web. Of course, now with the Super Bowl over, we now have 2026 or 2027 Super Bowl 61 odds. And while the Cardinals are never in the competitors, and they shouldn't be, they are not only among the long shots, they have the longest odds, tied with the Dolphins and the Jets. The Cardinals find themselves the perceived worst team in the offseason with the Dolphins and the Jets because of so much. I mean, it's because of how they ended the season. It's the uncertainty at quarterback because who knows if it's going to be Kyler Murray or Jacoby Brissett or either of none of them. But like, how surprised were you to see that the Cardinals not only were super long shots, but this was 2023 again, right? This was 2018, 2023 type stuff.
Yeah, man, and it's depressing. And did you see? I think it just posted, but I'll double check. Our buddy Donnie, I think it was Donnie Druin, of he's with SI, correct?
Yes, he is.
He just posted up that where did it go? That the Athletic, excuse me, the Athletic dropped their rankings, and guess who came in last?
Hey, Cardinals. And ESPN's, they were 20. They're bottom 5. It's just the perception about the Cardinals right now that Mike LaFleur got hired into a dumpster fire.
Yeah. Well, and so sorry, I should have probably explained better. The rankings were based on the hirings. So LaFleur was the least successful hire in their opinion. Now, obviously that doesn't matter. Let's just get that out of the way first, right? Does not matter. People can say whatever they want about the hiring. But the reality is the Arizona Cardinals are not going to ever get the benefit of the doubt when you're talking about an organization that is now the longest running professional sports organization without a championship. Like that's just the reality of the situation. And so you look at the reality of this team and this organization, and again we go back to the Aubrey Pleasant discussion. They're not going to get the benefit of the doubt, and I don't necessarily blame people. Do you?
No, I mean there's nothing to be excited about with any of this. Yeah, it's a crazy to see how they're perceived. It's everything from the interview process to the Cardinals, they're not getting themselves out of the way, and the perception of the Cardinals are isn't this honestly between last season and the offseason so far. I mean, we felt like the Cardinals are kind of the joke of the league. They've kind of hit that status again. That's kind of how it feels like right now. And they hadn't felt like truly a joke in the league since early 2000s, since before State Farm Stadium, honestly, when they were still at Sun Devil Stadium. But I think we've gotten there.
Yeah, and it makes it really difficult, right? Like it makes it difficult to be excited. And so this is the thing that has always got me. So like I was kind of going through social media preparing for this because I like to get a pulse of what people are thinking, positive or negative. And it's really interesting to get the people that were negative, their thoughts right now. And what I mean by that is they were negative and they were correct. I mean, obviously the Jonathan Gannon era ended up being a complete and utter disaster class, right? But the fact that when you're talking about the Cardinals, the default of everybody, including us, is to go, oh well, it's gonna fail. It's not like it doesn't make you right or smarter than everybody else. It just makes you it just shows that you're willing to take the easy route, right? Like looking at the Cliff Kingsbury hire and be like, yeah, this is not going to work long term. That was easy to call. Like a guy that's never been a successful head coach, like was mediocre in terms of outcomes at Texas Tech, and then was fired, and then got hired as a NFL head coach. Yeah, it wasn't going to work. Then hiring a guy who, now that we see it, is so afraid of failure, to your point, right? Like so afraid to lose games that he's ultra conservative, that he is conservative in both his what he wants from the offensive side of the ball and conservative in how he calls his defense, so that big plays just don't happen. We'll lose if we just give up yards and 12, 13 play drives, we'll bend but don't break, but they were always breaking as they were bending. Like 13 play touchdown drives is not a successful defense to have. And so, like, yeah, that's the easy route. And so, like, when people are like going in and like, well, Michael LaFleur, this and that, it's like, yeah, that's all accurate. Like, he hasn't called plays successfully in the NFL, just hasn't. A game here and there, okay. I mean, that's fine, but he has not been a successful offensive coordinator in the NFL calling plays. And so if you come in and that's what you hang your hat on, right? If you come in and go, well, he hasn't been successful when he got a shot with the Jets and he had to slink back to Sean McVay and be the OC and title only, not really execution. Yeah, that's easy. And you know what? Based on the Arizona Cardinals history, guess what? You're probably going to be right. Congratulations. You're right again. But why not at least try to have some excitement about the Michael LaFleur era? Like I can still remember that you and I were both excited about what Steve Wilkes was going to bring because it was such a change. Yeah. And then I'll never forget the game where I literally tweeted out and I was like, they have to fire everybody. Like, it's over. Like, and I think it was game 6, but I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was like game 6. And I was like, yeah, they got to fire everybody. This is like, this is really, really bad. And people were like, oh, blah, blah, like all this stuff. And I was like, no, this is bad, man. And then they did. And I was like, see, it wasn't me just being like, oh, you need to do X, Y, and Z. It was me saying like, oh no, I've watched enough football. Like, I've seen football and this is bad football. And so, like, the reality of it becomes that it's really easy to just say like, oh, Michael LaFleur is going to fail. And, oh, if they go get Malik Willis, right, it's going to fail. Or if they keep Kyler Murray, it's going to fail. Or if they keep Jacoby Brissett, it's going to fail. Those are the easy answers because it's always failed. But it's more enjoyable if you go, hey, like, where are the aspects that the success can come, and how can they, if they do keep Kyler, okay, what can LaFleur do to make Kyler successful? If they keep Jacoby, it's like, okay, what can they do to put Jacoby where the play, for the most part, that he had last year is again on the field, but it's leading to something productive and not a single win in 12 games, right? Like, those are the questions that we need to ask and try to find answers to. And it doesn't mean that we're just fanboying or we're not being critical or we're not. No, it's just like giving this a chance to breathe, because the reality of the situation is it's the Arizona Cardinals. And the easiest thing to do is be like, yeah, they're probably going to suck again. That's just the reality. It's been a long time and they've sucked almost all of it. So why not at least change how you're perceiving it to start? And then when it does suck, be man enough to be like, okay, this has run its course. Now we need to move on, type stuff, right?
Yes. We look at those odds. What do you think about Seattle being the favorite to win it? Now it's neck and neck, basically. Seahawks at 8-1, the Rams at 9-1, plus 900, followed by the Ravens, Bills, Packers, Chiefs. The Chiefs one's interesting considering I know Patrick Mahomes is saying he's gonna push to be ready by week 1. I don't see it, but a Patrick Mahomes-less Chiefs in that mix there is kind of crazy. But early on, looking ahead to 2026 season, I wouldn't put money on the Seahawks this next year with, how things played out this year. They're going to have to pay JSN And, Ken Walker might leave in free agency. They don't have Clint Kubiak. I think they're a team that's going to be hard to do that. But, I mean, to see them be the favorites after just winning the Super Bowl, that shows kind of the belief in that team right now, followed by the Rams, and with Matthew Stafford already knowing that he's coming back.
Right. And that was one of those things where you look at it and, this was a team that really gelled this year, and they put together a season that was really good, depending on who they were playing. And what I mean by that isn't like the Patriots were like, hey, they took advantage of some bad teams. No, they were like, you look at their outcomes of games, and obviously you only have to go back to the week before, or the game before, 2 weeks before, to see like they could really play any style of game, right? Like you had the 31-27 win over the Rams, the 41-6 win. I mean, it is what it is. The 49ers basically had Jess and I out there trying to make plays. Like it is what it is. But those games against the Rams, their wins over the Texans early in the season, the Jaguars, even their loss to the Bucks, like they were chameleon and able to like adapt to who they were playing and play that sort of game. And so when you look at their win over the Patriots, it was like, oh yeah, we're not worried about their offense. Like they can have all this garbage time yardage. We know that they're not going to be able to do anything, and we'll just do enough to continue to build a lead and then end it. The question is that a sustainable product, right? Like when you get into a knife fight, yeah, they're going to be good, right? Because they're a physical, fast, really dominant defense. But that pumpkin started to show up, like you talked about, Jess. Like that pumpkin was there, and the Patriots just couldn't take advantage. And then on top of that, the Patriots pumpkin was there as well. So like, you see really that everything is fleeting if you don't have an elite quarterback. That's just the reality. Like, I'm not taking shots. I don't think negatively of the Seahawks. Am I jealous? 1,000%. Jess and I are super jealous. But we also have seen that this is a league of, it really comes down. It really, really comes down to who's your quarterback. That's what keeps you there every year. And I don't think we can take away from what Darnold's done. But man, there were flashes of that, right? There were flashes of not great. And so that's what's going to be interesting to watch moving forward.
Yeah. Coming up next on the Rise Receiver podcast, Mr. Cardinals Talk on the Web. Let's get one last discussion about the quarterback position, just because it's been around the ESPN, the national stuff. That's coming up next in Rise of C Red. We're back on the Rise of C Red podcast, Mr. Cardinals Talk. Last segment of the show for today, talking about the quarterback position, and there have been reports. Jeremy Fowler over at ESPN had a bunch of information. Adam Schefter as well, and it kind of goes to the situation is that I don't know if the Cardinals know yet. They're putting together a plan over the next few weeks, but we have the report that one, the door is not closed for Kyler Murray's return, but that's Jeremy Fowler. At the same time, Adam Schefter saying that the Cardinals are actively looking for trade partners, as are the Miami Dolphins, for their starting quarterbacks in Kyler Murray and Tua Tagovailoa. So they're both trying to trade their quarterback. So the Cardinals are trying to trade Kyler Murray, but also could keep Kyler Murray as their starter for another year. And, if they bring back Murray, Jacoby Brissett might have trade value. So it's kind of all over the place. And then also, and we talked about him last week because the connections to but Malik Willis is a guy that Fowler believed that the Cardinals and the Dolphins are two teams to watch when it comes to Malik Willis. And so the question that I pose for this one, how do you see the quarterback position playing out? Will they have either Kyler or Brissett or neither on the roster when the season, by the time free agency begins?
I'm going to go neither.
That's the way I'm leaning too, is that I think in a perfect world, I think LaFleur would like to get, unless he is enamored with Kyler Murray, it believes in him the way Jonathan Gannon believed in him when Gannon was hired, that he's going to want to clean the position out. Like, okay, the organization wants Kyler gone. They want his contract off the books. They're done with him, as was evidenced last year. LaFleur is going to come in and see Jacoby Brissett. He's like, I can't win with that guy. I mean, nothing wrong with Jacoby Brissett, but also because he started so many games, you might as well get value for him. I totally could see the quarterback batter being Malik Willis and Jimmy Garoppolo next year. I know we talked about both last week. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if they ended up having to cut Kyler, they trade Brissett, and then go and sign Willis and Garoppolo, and then we'll get a whole new quarterback room for next year.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, right? Like you look at all of this, and you're right. Like it makes sense that they move on from anybody that's been involved. But it also makes sense that you give a head coach a chance to do what he wants to do. And let's be honest, Jess, and you and I do not think they will. Okay, so if they kept Kyler, the screams and the shrieks are going to be, this is all Bidwell not wanting to pay. So even if Michael LaFleur came out unfettered and just said, guys, I want Kyler, the response is never going to accept that. They just won't.
No.
So
no, and it would just show more of the dysfunction of this organization this off season. But they seem unbothered by how their process or how things looked for the coach. They need to go into this season just as unbothered by their decision. Like they can't worry about outside noise. They can't worry about how whiny people are going to be if Kyler is the starting quarterback or whether they trade Jacoby Brissett. They can't, and that's the one thing I know. Michael Bidwell, like we've talked about this, that he seems to sway to public outcry like late. Like he cares too much sometimes and doesn't care enough about other things. That the way they approach their coaching hire, they got to do the same thing with the quarterback position. They don't care what whiny Arizona fans are going to say, because we all know our fans are kind of, like you wanted Jacoby Brissett to be the guy, and that's what you got. Guess what? You deserve it. You deserve the 1-11 finish. So do it. Be convicted with whatever you're doing and don't care what anybody thinks. You might be wrong, but at least you have a conviction about it instead of going, well, we can't do this because what will the fans think? Fans will come back if they win. If they're good, fans will come back.
Right, exactly. And that's all that matters. And so they have to figure that part out. Like, that's the biggest thing that they have to figure out is how to compete at a high level. And the reality of the situation is they've got to figure out who gives Mike LaFleur the best chance to compete. And also, Mike LaFleur needs to have that autonomy to make that decision. Now, obviously, he can't be like, yeah, I need Matthew Stafford. Okay, that's not going to work, buddy. But, like, if he says...
Everyone needs Matthew Stafford.
Right. And if, you look at it and you go, okay, we need, if he goes, I need Malik Willis. I need, Jimmy Garoppolo. I need, let's go, Will Levis. Then go make that happen. Don't accept being bad. And I think that's my biggest thing right now. You and I have kind of behind the scenes been resolved to they're probably going to be a bad team again next year. They don't have any answers at quarterback. The one answer they do have a quarterback that we know that will get them to at least an average season, competing late in the season for a playoff spot, but probably are going to be average, is a guy that they've basically burned the bridge with, right? And so how do they get somebody that allows them to, again, compete and at least be average? And if Mike says, hey, that's, this guy that's an attainable asset, then go get that guy. Don't just be like, hey, you're going to get Jacoby Brissett this year. And you only may win 2 or 3 games, but then you get a chance at Arch Manning. It's like, okay, cool. I won 2 games. I get Arch Manning, and now I have a group of men who don't believe I can lead them to wins. And then if I go 7-10 the next year, but have, I'm sitting at 7-6 and lose the last 4 games, the thought process of all these men that just want to win and just want to compete on a Sunday in February for a Super Bowl is, well, this isn't the guy that's going to get us there. And that's what the problem has been for too long for this organization. And they have to fix it, or else it's going to continue to be the same outcome. And Jess and I in 2029 will be having the same conversation.
Yes, that's totally what's going to happen. But they need something moving in a positive direction. And I like, as much as the idea of tank for Arch or whatever quarterback in 2027, the problem is that you draft that guy and you're still not a good team. Like, we saw it from Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud, but how many times is a rookie quarterback team good? It is rare. It is rare. It is so rare. And so you punt this season, you punt the next season, and so you're going into year 3 with Mike LaFleur.
And then he has to win,
and he has to win, just like what happened with Gannon. Only, well, with Gannon, like, we didn't think it was going to go. Like, we thought that it would take a disaster and the disaster happened. But we're just hitting that 3-year cycle, and if in year 2 of Arch Manning or whatever young quarterback doesn't quite pan out, and you go from a 3-win team to a 5-win team, and you're only at 7 wins in that young quarterback second year. I mean, what are we looking at? Like, there's no momentum. That was the problem, is that we rebuilt already. The Cardinals were doing a rebuild and it failed majestically. And so now we have to do it again. So, but then they say, hey, no, is this a rebuild, or are we somehow going to turn this around? And if they're going to turn it around, how are we going to do it? So it's going to be an interesting thing, as we will talk about the roster over the next few shows. then hit free agency. We've got the combine coming up around the corner. We'll talk more draft stuff, but with all the coaching stuff, we push a lot of our off-season content to later. So we have content for weeks and weeks to come. So with that, we'll wrap up this edition of the Rise of Zero podcast, Best of Cardinals Talk on the web. And Seth and I will likely be back later this week, and we'll see what the off-season calendar will bring us over the next few weeks. That's Seth Cox. I'm Jess Root. Thanks for listening as always. We'll be back again soon.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up, See Red podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise up, Red Sea, be Red, See Red, and of course, Rise Up, See Red.
Red!